Good Wednesday evening, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are doing well out there this evening and have had a good Wednesday so far. We got just a few hours left in the day, so I thought I would go ahead and get this video out there to you guys. We have some updated information to go over when it comes to this weekend storm system. I do think we're going to have some sort of strong low pressure that goes across areas of the south central and the southeast U.S. this weekend, starting as early as 2 days from now, this coming Friday. So we have to watch it closely. There are still changes happening. There's still trends happening. So we're trying to figure it out, but we aren't quite there yet. So that's why we're doing these daily videos to keep you guys posted. So we're going to go over that as well as some future pattern discussion and a more in-depth discussion of the severe risk that could be associated with this. So like this video if you like it, subscribe if you've not done so already, and please leave a comment down below where you are watching from. It'd be greatly appreciated. As usual, I'm going to start this off just with our satellite loop here. I'm going to pause this right about here. This was just earlier on in the day. A lot of clear skies across areas of the U.S. We did have an area of moisture roll through the southeast today. I didn't really pick up any rain here at my house. If I overlay the radar on this and let it play, it might take a second to load. But yeah, you can see if I pause it like here, there's just some shower activity down in the southeast. So I experienced some of this. We got some snow up in areas in the northeast and a rain, snow, depends on where you are, type of mix out west. So I will go ahead, as usual, get rid of the radar and overlay the jet stream. Pretty negligible pattern in most places today. We're seeing that ridge start building in this kind of upward buckling of the jet stream. You could draw on it like this. And yeah, that's just a ridge. It's starting to warm these areas of the U.S. up. I mean, it hit 70 degrees at my house today. It was very enjoyable. I actually got to go outside. It was nice. Uh, Definitely remaining cool in northern areas of the U.S. And then it was much more humid areas of the South with all this moisture. So moving past that, here is the latest loop of the radar. The last frame, there we go. Yeah, just a lot of snow, lake effect snow, clipper type action going on in the Northeast today. I'm gonna go ahead and stop this right here on the last frame. So we'll take a closer look at all this, and yeah, just a lot of snow activity going on up here, off the lakes, and areas of this will be heavier. We'll go over watches, warnings, and advisories in a second. And you look over here in western areas of the U.S., mostly rain, but higher elevations receiving snow as you would expect them to. And then you move down here to areas of the southeast. Here's what's left of that moisture. Put this back in motion here. All this stuff is just kind of moving to the south and east with time. So we look at watches, warnings, and advisories, and they have remained similar. If actually kind of dropped off for today. Not a whole lot going on out there. Winter related warnings in the highest elevations out here. So even some winter storm warnings in areas of Colorado and Wyoming. Otherwise, very, very quiet across areas of the U.S. We do have special weather statements. These are for snow, maybe ice, just kind of rough travel conditions, if anything else. And then we do have this kind of greenish color lake effect snow warnings that expire in 16 hours. I did not know they issued them for that long. So if you're in areas of uh, New York, central New York, just kind of pay attention to the weather. Some lake effect snow going on in that area. So we move past this. We're going to start this off. We've kind of sectioned this out a little bit differently. I'm going to go over the south central U.S. first with precipitation from all three models, and then we're going to move it east, and then we'll go further from there. So here's the 18Z European. Just finished running not too long ago. We're starting all this off the evening of this coming Friday, or afternoon. So you will notice that, yeah, there's not a whole lot that goes on here. But I really want to watch this area. The Storm Prediction Center in this area, it's not that big. But somewhere down there, you've got a thunderstorms risk and even a marginal risk area, level 1 out of 5 risk down in this area. I will likely pull that up more in detail for tomorrow's video. I may do it on the fly, but not a whole lot going on today with those outlooks. But yeah, like for example, that area of red. I'm not saying that if you live in one of those counties that you're going to expect the supercell to form or anything like that, but I would really, really want to watch these areas as we will have overlapping ingredients on the 13th, this coming Friday into the evening hours. So nothing crazy, nothing terrible. Just watch it. But anyway, move past this. It's the evening of the 13th, and move this on. Obviously, a lot more moisture starts to blossom. This is the morning of this coming Saturday, a few days from now. We have a 1,006 millibar low in the Texas Panhandle, moisture out ahead of it, It kind of spins around and, doesn't really move a whole lot until we get the low. Even though it says the low is, it's still up in northern areas of Texas. You see where this black line, kind of goes like this. That would tell me the low is like in here, south of the Red River. Not just a little nitpicky detail, but it's 1,003 millibars. It's not really that strong. It's also not like crazy weak. But all of these red blobs showing up to the south of it and the east of it could definitely have the potential to be severe. I do think we'll have some sort of severe risk in this area. So yes, this is the evening hours of the 14th, this coming Saturday. Move this on, and then like this frame, for example, we're going to stop all of this model guidance here because we're going to move this east. So this is getting closer to me. This is about 10 p.m. this Saturday. And all of this red to the south of that low is in a really bad spot when it comes to severe weather. It being positioned south of the low pressure means that it is experiencing warm, moist advection to the south of the low, which means it is pulling that Gulf air. You can see the Gulf of Mexico is right there. It pulls that up there. It gets those dew points higher, and it can foster an environment that supports higher and severe weather. This does not scream outbreak. It doesn't scream crazy, but just I do think we'll have some sort of severe risk. So we're going to stop that there, and then we're going to look at the GFS. So GFS starting off the afternoon of the 13th. Nothing really shows up until we get closer to midnight. But again, even though not a whole lot showing up here, and especially like no yellows, I want to watch, let's say, central, west central, and then southwest areas of Texas for something to happen. Not high end, again, just something to happen. But let's get into the morning of the 14th. It looks a lot more moist. The GFS typically looks like this, just the way the output looks, but we have a 1,006 millibar low in a pretty similar location and a lot of moisture surrounding it. So we get into the afternoon of the 14th. And so it positions this low a bit further south. So that would lead me to believe that this would somewhat mitigate our severe risk. But again, if you take your eyes off of where that L is and you draw the isobar in, that would tell me the low could be over here. That's a big difference, guys. If the low is here, that means that areas to the south of it would be the severe weather areas. If the low is where it says it is, then that would be like down here. Nothing's going on here. So it matters where that low is. But don't pay too close of attention. Especially on these global models, the resolution is not high enough to really get nitpicky with. But let's get towards midnight. We'll stop this here. So again, that low jumps north a little bit. It's a very broad surface low. Nothing about this is very tight and organized. This is all kind of messy looking, but all of that red and yellow you see on your map could well be severe weather. So we're going to move past that, look at the Canadian afternoon. Again, nothing's showing up here, but I think there could be something. Again, I do think there could be something. So yeah, we get out here closer to midnight, more moisture starts to blossom. However, you can see that it is north of the surface low. That doesn't mean that it's going to be snow, but I don't think it would be severe to the point that the stuff to the south could be, to put it that way. But here's the morning of this coming Saturday, and we have a lot of moisture, a lot more intense moisture surrounding the low. But for example, this frame here, we'll analyze this one a minute. This is 78 hours out. This is not far. You see where the low is. It looks much more organized. You can see these black lines make complete circles, and you can see where they lead to. Where the bullseye is where the low is, right here. And then you would look to the south, somewhere down in here. All of where this moisture is fair game for some sort of severe weather to occur. And based on the Canadian solution here, I like the organization of this. I think that it could be this organized. Again, nitpicky details, you don't really need to do that with global model like this, but regardless, that's what it looks like. So we move this on a little bit more, and that red and yellow starts to pop up. That just does not look good for severe weather. That looks like it could support severe weather quite a bit. But this is the evening of the 14th, and we move this on. We're going to stop it here. This is midnight on the 14th, getting into the early morning hours of the 15th. And we have a low. It's kind of messy. The low, to me, would be placed somewhere in far western areas of Arkansas, far eastern areas of Oklahoma, not where it says it is, but even so, it's pretty similar. So there's that. Now we're going to start this off. We're going to go backwards a little bit. Here's the Euro. not backwards in time, backwards with models. We're going to start this off midnight, thereabouts. This is actually 1 a.m., but regardless, about midnight, Friday night into Sunday morning, and see where this low goes. So you see how that red starts to push into areas of Mississippi, and you see how there's like red blobs showing up out ahead. That's called prefrontal activity. I don't know. It's hard to determine from just this if it would be warm enough, but I do think that our kinematics, our wind energy, will be adequate across most of this area for something to happen. So if it's warm enough in, say, areas of Alabama and Georgia for this prefrontal activity to occur, it's fair game. But you can see how that low is riding far enough north. It's not far north, but far enough north that areas to the south of it could see severe weather. But I mean, this is getting into the morning of this coming Sunday, the 15th, and so thermodynamics are not peaking at this point. This is the morning hours, and it's February, so you wouldn't expect this to be very warm. Now I will look here at what the temperatures are. Marginal temperatures. There is a warm sector. The way you look at that is if it goes like this. So it kind of goes like that with the highest temperatures. So in areas of Mississippi and Alabama, we do have something of a warm sector here. Switch this back. But you see how it's actually the moisture is actually kind of past those areas. So a lot of this rain is falling in the 50s. That's not really severe weather. So I think that our severe threat drops off on Sunday for areas of the South, and it's confined to the far southern areas of the South, if that makes any sense. But we move this on. This is just a huge rain bomb. That's all this is. I mean, the low is kind of farting around back there is a term I like to call it. I mean, it's not really doing anything. The low's been kind of sitting there, stalling out, and there's just a whole lot of rain out ahead of it. Well needed rain across areas that you see in green. I mean, most of these areas need rain. This is getting into the afternoon of the 15th. I'll be likely, at this point, I will be um, doing some top golf with my friends. So it'll be nice and a cool rain at this point up in upstate South Carolina area. But again, these cells, these kind of red blobs down here in southern areas of Georgia and into the Florida Panhandle, I could see this being severe. But we move this on and it gets out of our hair. So how about the GFS model starting this off the same? Going to move through this a bit quicker. I mean, the low is a little bit further south, but anywhere you see yellow that is in similar latitude to where the low is relatively fair game, especially south of it. Excuse me. So it's a little bit different. It drops that low further south quicker, and it's a little bit more messy. But there is some severe weather threat in here. I would almost guarantee it. Moves out of our hair. Now, how about the Canadian? Starts this off. Do you see where the low is? Way up there in areas of, say, Tennessee. Now, again, you can look at these isobars. The isobar itself is the line of equal pressure is that big. So putting the low all the way up there doesn't make any sense. To me, it would be in here. Regardless, that puts all of this as fair game for severe weather. To be very, very nitpicky, this area will not see severe weather. I almost guarantee it because we have something called cold air damming in place. It's not cold enough for snow, but we have cold air kind of pushed down in this area. If you can see, these black bars kind of kink like this. That is indicative of cold air damming. It's a pressure change. It keeps this area cooler locally. Now, I don't know how well it's going to show up on temperatures here. Yeah, it shows up perfectly actually. So I'm drawing this. Do you see this little extension here of cooler air? That'd be that's cold. That's like in the upper 40s, and it's raining. So that's not comfortable. But you see areas to the south, it's in the 60s, maybe 70 degrees in some areas. So definitely something to watch. I'm gonna just click back on this, and we can go back through the next few frames. Now, I mean, it does have snow for some areas to the north. I will say, because we'll go over this in a minute, that the European ensemble for snow has really dropped off. So that is worth noting. But it kind of spins around for a minute, but it's out completely by this. Well, it actually takes quite a while to fully get out of our hair, but it's like a little bit less than a week from now. So it kind of spins around out here off the coastline for a while, but regardless, that's not important. So I will show you this. It's the European ensemble, and what you're looking at is the pressure anomaly at the surface. So where you see reds would indicate a ridge, high pressure, and you can see that H for high and a 1027 high. So that is reasonably strong. This sets the stage because these high pressures rotate like this. If you remember what the cold air damping I just mentioned, air is like this. That's why, because the high pressure is doing that. It sets the stage for that cold air damping. Anyway, you can see in this blue, this is starting out the afternoon of the 13th. It starts to appear. That means lower pressure. This is the European ensemble. This is 51 members. Very reliable thing to look at. I'm showing you this to try to figure out if we can determine where this low goes, because it'll be very, very important. But we get the afternoon of the 13th into the morning of the 14th. It deepens quite a bit. The ridge drops south, but pay attention to that low out areas further west. 1,007 millibars on average. And it's a much more organized look because it's an ensemble, but you can see where that low is. And I mean, this is it's about midnight, Saturday night into Sunday morning, and yeah, I mean, areas south of the low could be in some sort of unfavored area when it comes to severe weather. Favored area for severe weather, if that makes any sense. So I mean, it rolls the low east and keeps it in the northern areas of the deep south states. I'm telling you, based off of this, you would look to the south of the low, and there's a decent amount of real estate down there. So I don't know. It's definitely something to watch, but it rolls through and then comes out, gets out of the way. So you see right at the end here, this is the 17th, and you see all this really, really dark blue. We'll go over this in a little bit. I think we could have another strong storm system in the central and northern areas of the U.S., but go over that in a minute. So there's that. Now, I'm going to try to do my best to make this quick, but I love severe weather. That is literally what my channel is named, the severe weather forecast. Now, I love talking about this. I didn't mean to click on that. I love talking about this, so I'm going to try to make this as simple as I can. We're going to use just the European model. I'm going to do a little bit of an analysis of these two areas, the south central U.S. and the southeast. So we're going to look here, starting off the afternoon of the 13th, at a few different products. This is the 500 millibar, that is 3 to 4 miles above your head. At the wind speed in that layer, you're looking for winds in excess of, say, 50 knots. So when it turns to about this yellow color, and you're looking for those to overspread regions where the dew points and the temperatures are highest. We'll go over the temperatures in a minute. So let's move this on a little bit. Well, hold on. I'll say this. Because we are talking about some sort of risk area on this coming Friday in the afternoon in, say, this area of Texas, we do in fact have flow that is strong enough and supportive of severe weather in this area. So I'm going to not move this at all. I'm just going to show you a few different things. This here is 700 millibars. This is, say, 2 or 3 miles above your head. And what you look for in this layer, this is early afternoon, this is about lunchtime Central Time, this coming Friday. You look for these little kinks. You see how it kind of bends, not like whatever that second one was. See how it kind of bends a little bit, just ever so slightly? That is called shortwave. And the 700 millibar layer is a very prominent layer to look at when trying to determine shortwaves. What these are, you can essentially draw a little line through them. Out ahead of those, you have rising motion in the low to mid levels of the atmosphere, and that can get storms going. So these are little focused areas of lift in the atmosphere, and you look for that. So we have little ones rolling through. I mean, this is our overall risk area. And so if I click through a few frames here, there are little shortwaves, just very, very subtle kinks that roll through the area. So there's that. Now I'm going to back this up here, get rid of it. We're going to drop this down to the 850 millibar level. This is called a top-down approach to severe weather, where you work your way from the upper levels down. This is 850 millibars. Think about 3/4 of a mile to a mile above your head. That's all I want you to think about. This is wind speeds in that layer. It's the same map. So this is the same time as well. In severe weather setups, you draw a low right here. You want the low-level jet to be oriented as much out of the south as possible. You don't want the low-level jet oriented like this. Well, you can want it oriented like that. It's getting into very complicated physics. But you want it generally oriented out of the south for a few reasons. That's pulling Gulf air north, and that is elongating the low-level hodograph. And that really what that means is it is enhancing wind shear, specifically directional wind shear, which just can help to induce rotation in thunderstorms and to create supercells. So we look for that, and we have a almost due southerly low level jet at, yeah, it's very marginal, 20 knots. But I mean, if you look down here in southern areas, Texas is where the strongest stuff is. Now we move like one more frame, it starts to blossom, and you see this area along the Texas and Mexico border, U.S. Mexico border down here in Texas, 35 knots, and it is backed out of the southeast. That further enhances a low level hodograph, and that can further enhance the wind shear, the directional shear in this area. So that's not the most favorable look for, or that's a more favorable look for severe weather, not the most favorable for those people. So again, we're going to drop this down now to the surface. I'm not going to move this if I can help it. This is the surface map temperature wise. This is very self-explanatory. This is what the temperatures are at the surface. And you can see these black lines indicate the surface pressure. So somewhere right about here is where the surface low is. There is quite a large area down here of at least mid 70s or greater temperatures. So that is more than enough this time of year to get the job done. So there's that. Now we look at dew points. They're a little bit more marginal. We have, upper 50s. That would mean our temperature dew point spreads, the difference between those two, is approaching 20 degrees. That is not favorable for severe weather. That is not favorable. So if we go like one more frame, it even goes down a little bit. So that could be a limiting factor, but there are locally areas up near 60 degrees with dew points. Theta E, this is potential temperature. So this essentially combines these two products to create what you would look for both. This is measured in Kelvin, so don't worry too much on what they are. But where you see these reds here, that is essentially it's summarizing your thermodynamics. And the areas where it's the brightest red is the strongest thermodynamics. Here is instability. So we have several hundred at max, maybe 600 or 700 joules per kilogram of CAPE. CAPE stands for, what that means is convective available potential energy. It's just the buoyancy, the positive buoyancy rather, of an air parcel from the surface. So just think of this as the ability of a parcel to rise in comparison to the surrounding environmental air. So if you have a few hundred joules per kilogram, that's enough. You'd really look for where it turns on this map, to where it turns to a blue color, like right here. This is one more frame. So we've got 1100 joules per kilogram. That is enough. Absolutely enough to get the job done. You look at what surface temperatures are, in the 70s. Our dew points, well, locally, they're a little bit higher, 57, 58 degrees. So that's why you have that. That could be a localized area. That's not a forecast. That's just what we're talking about here. And then if you look at our moisture, it doesn't say there's anything. But if there is some sort of front, we'll go back to the surface. Based off of this, there's not appear to be any sort of surface front. But this is really nitpicky of me. I'm telling you guys, I love severe weather, and you're gonna see me do that. Do you see how there's a black line here that connects like that? That means there's surface low somewhere right here. So you can kind of see the winds kind of curl around the low a little bit. So that would be a little like localized area of enhanced surface vorticity. It's another product you can look at. I don't think it's a product here, but it's what starts storms rotating. So I do think, to sum all that up, that in central and southern areas of Texas on Friday, we will have a severe risk. So I spent a whole lot of time talking about that. I'm going to go back here and just move on a little bit to the afternoon of the 14th and do a little bit of analyzing here. This is that 500 millibar, 3 to 4 miles up in the sky jet wind speeds. And you can see there's a broad area, a broad belt is what we'd call this, of flow. So this is going to get the job done, and check that off of the list. Most of the potential risk area is covered by at least 50, maybe even as much as 70 or 80 knots of mid-level flow in some areas, especially down here as you get into the southern areas of Texas. And so these areas where it turns red like this, and it's kind of oval shaped, that is called jet streak. So it's a little difficult to do this. For example, we'll use this frame. if this actually unfolds like this, you would take a jet streak like this, and you would draw it into quadrants like this. You look for the left, so that way, exit region, the downstream region of a jet streak for the most rising motion, the most favorable severe weather. So that would be here. That's not a very large area, but that would be this area. Both exit regions, or rather all of them, are both exit regions, both entrance regions can get the job done. But you look right here and then right there for the highest areas of severe weather. Obviously, that's over Mexico, so that's not the most favorable. We just have broad flow here. And we move this on a few more frames. You can see, we use this frame here, how our trough has become much more amplified. So you see these black lines kind of going like this. So it's digging like that. That tells me it is positively tilted. That's not the most favorable for severe weather, but regardless, I'm going to start to speed this up because I don't want to keep these videos horrifically long here. But we go back a few frames. We'll use this one. And we drop down, look at the low-level jet. Yeah, this is not a good look. We have 42 knots of low-level flow, generally out of the south. Not the most favorable direction here. It's kind of out of the southwest, but regardless, it's definitely there across areas of the Arklatex. So that is not the most. That's pretty favorable for severe weather. Again, I get my terminology mixed up. More favorable for severe weather, but it's not favorable for the people who live in this area. Let's see here. I'll drop this down to the surface. Look at our temperature map. Temperature is a little bit more marginal because we have moisture in this area, but we do have a strengthening surface low. So any areas that do not see storms or out ahead of some sort of line will have the potential to warm up more than this. But we have 60s, mid 60s, maybe 70 degrees. Dew points have improved across this area. You see what eastern areas of Texas, western areas of Louisiana, along the eastern areas of the Red River, we have 60s or more dew points. Even far south areas of Texas could reach even as much as 70 degrees. And then so what that leads to is more instability to kind of boil up in this region. Now we move on one more frame here. And yeah, this like that little area there is it's got a lot of overlapping ingredients. So you look at what the moisture could be, and we have storms in this area. So I'm telling you guys, very valid severe threat in this area. So let's move this on. I'm gonna be honest, the southeast US is a little bit different. Our confidence is less in this area because we can't figure out where this low is gonna go. Let's move this on a little bit. So, I mean, for example, if you take this frame, let's just use this one. This the morning of this coming Sunday. You can see our trough digging like this, still positively tilted, but we have a reasonably strong belt of flow across the area. The reason it kind of looks weird in here is like less is because the storms are literally ongoing and it breaks up the flow in the mid levels. This is still 500 millibars. So look at that, and then I want you to look at this, if I can click on it. So I have growing concerns that this is the low levels. This is less than a mile above your head, and you have interstate speeds. So what I want you to get from this, if you say look at this frame, well, we'll use this one. This is a very broad swath of over 40 knots of sustained flow in the very low levels. This will have the potential to mix down to the surface through a bunch of adiabatic processes. I'm not going to go over those, and make it a very windy day. So it'll be rainy, it'll be windy, even if you don't see a severe thunderstorm specifically. And I have growing concerns about over how strong this could be. But I mean, we have over 50 knots move into areas of South Carolina, a bunch of different places here. I mean, look here in areas of Mississippi, over 60 knots. You add a few, so it'd be like 65, maybe as much as 70 miles per hour. That's interstate speeds, less than a mile above your head. So pretty crazy stuff. Now, if you go down to the surface here, you can see our surface low. It's nighttime, so our temperature is a little bit more marginal. We move this on to say the afternoon of this coming Sunday. looks a lot more organized. Our surface low is very obviously right there. It kind of makes sense. South of the low, there's a little corridor of surface temperatures, at least in the 70s, although our surface wind is not favorable for severe weather. You would really look down in this area for the most severe threat. Obviously, areas of Florida here are quite warm, but you can see our cold air damming wedge in this area. I'm going to leave it circled. Kind of hangs on the whole time. So just a cold rain in the upstate South Carolina, northern Georgia area, and in the mountains, and then cold air filters in behind. But it warms right back up the next day. So if you're done with the cold like I am, I'll take that. So we're going to move on from that because I spent a very long time talking about it. So you can get that off your screen. Now, if we look at how much moisture could fall in this time frame, this is the National Blend of Models. This has gone down a little bit. It's also trended north. Tells me that the surface low has also trended north, just ever so slightly. We know that these events like to trend north. That's just how they work. So we have a broad swath of over an inch. That's where it's yellow. It starts to be yellow, obviously, when you go to this red, it's even more. But this is much needed rainfall. Now, if you look at, like, say, this same run from about 24 hours ago, it was higher and further south, but some areas have remained pretty similar. Just dropped off some of those really, really hot toes. So a lot of moisture on the way for these areas. We look at the European ensemble here. This is for snow. This has really dropped off in areas of, say, northwestern areas of North Carolina, areas of Virginia, West Virginia. Just does not look good at all. This is through the event. We have somewhat of a signal, but it really is interior northeast based. Even along the I-95 corridors, just remains dry for this event. Obviously, I mean, I can pull this out to the end and whatever. It kind of fills in as you would expect it to, but no crazy signals for the south. I think we're really starting to wrap up winter for areas of the south. So we're going to use both of our AI models here briefly to go over some pattern recognition type stuff. We're going to use these to attempt to figure out what could be going on in longer range here. So this is starting off. We're going to start all of this off the morning of this coming Wednesday, about a week from now. And I think I'm going to draw on it, just this one, that we have some sort of a surface low and some sort of storm system in that circle. Where the low goes is important because it determines where the severe weather, where the winter weather, where the rain, all that stuff is. But here's the European AI and its opinion. Kind of ejects a low off the northern Rockies and kind of drops it south. But there's a moderate snowstorm going on in areas of Minnesota, areas of Wisconsin here. I mean, that North Dakota, specifics not important. There's some sort of corridor of freezing rain, and it starts to move off to the east, and then some sort of other surface low pressure gets going. Nothing crazy. And right at the end of the run, there's something else kind of trying to boil up here. Could be a mixed bag of severe weather to winter weather. So what I'm showing you this for is that we have a few storm succession here of just a few surface lows that eject off the Rockies. There's like 3 or 4 of them within the next 10 days. So we need to watch those closely. So here's the AIGFS, well further north with this entire system. But it kind of moves that on in time. And then afterwards, there's surface lows, not as much moisture. And then, so we're going to dive very briefly into the pattern here. This is the mid-levels. This is the European Ensemble, 500 millibars, 3 or 4 miles, all that good stuff. This is the geopotential height anomaly. So just think troughing or ridging. Ridging in this red corresponds to warmer air. This blue responds to more cold air. But the western areas of the U.S. really seem to cool down as we get into, say, the 18th. And what I want you to see here, I'm going to start this off and just draw on it, that you see how these black lines just kind of go like this? That would support, you get a surface low, say forms it right there, it would support it just kind of going off like that. If it forms down here, it would support it just going like that. Up here, it just go like that. So kind of zonal flow, just west to east flow. If we move this on a little bit, and it goes even more zonal. Southeast ridge hanging on here. Right here is 10 days from now. Reasonably strong southeast ridge, very zonal look. Remaining troughing in the western U.S. And then let's take this to the end. This is the end frame here. Very zonal. Essentially, air parcels get from the Pacific to the Atlantic without going up or down in latitude. So that's what zonal really means fundamentally. So nothing crazy about this. And we look at temperatures in response. This is starting off February the 18th uh, in the morning. And you see this is temperature anomaly. So you're looking at reds in the salmon pink color. That'd be above average. Blues are below. Western U.S. is cooler. And we have a broad area of above average temperatures really transitioning to the southeast U.S. as we get out near 10 days from now. I think we're going to be warmer than average between now and 10 days. And it just hangs on. Western areas of the U.S. remain cold. And then let's say we just take this to the end and everything kind of smooths out a little bit, but we still have a southeast ridge in place and we still have kind of uh, near normal or troughing in western areas of the U.S. and the far northern tier of the country. So, all that being said, what I want to watch for in the long range here, medium to long range, is storm systems that do one of a few things. They're going to form along the leeward side of the Appalachians, the Rocky Mountains, and then if it forms up here, it's going to kind of go like that. If it forms right here, it's going to kind of go like that. And if it forms down here, it's going to kind of go like that. So obviously, wherever they form is important, but I want to watch for these type of systems. This is what the operational Euro had to say about that low way far north. But just kind of watch. I mean, right here, for example, I know it's kind of hard to see, but in areas of the Midwest, we have these little. This could be thunderstorms. We moved this on a little bit more. There's likely another severe event going on in areas of the South. So I'm not saying that we're about to have a severe weather like active stretch, but I think we could start to see the reintroduction of severe weather events for the central areas of the U.S., the Central Plains, the Midwest, the Mid Atlantic, point south. That'd definitely be a severe event right there. Line of storms, and then is more severe weather to the south. There we get out here. That's last frame. So that's an interesting last frame. Um, that's weird. I don't know why it did that. It's kind of stuck for a second, but lost my place here. Yeah, move out here. So this would be kind of a far northern based storm system, but we do have likely thunderstorms ongoing. And that's the last frame there. So all that to say that I do think that we'll have some sort of active pattern here. I'm going to pinch zoom this to get all of it in frame. Some sort of active pattern in the medium to longer range for just storm systems that kind of cut across the central areas of the country, and that could bring winter weather to the north, severe weather to the south. But we have to figure all that out. So thank you guys for watching. Sorry this video has been longer. I love talking about the weather, guys. I love talking about mainly severe weather. That's my thing. So if you don't like hearing me yap about it that long, well, I'm sorry, but I really can't help it. It's just one of my favorite things ever. So yeah, share this with friends and family. Just kind of get it out there. Not a whole lot going on right now. We'll have to watch this weekend system. I don't expect anything crazy from it, but we will have to see. And I'll get a video out to you guys tomorrow at some point, so tune into that. And that being said, I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching.